In one of the most explosive and emotional moments ever seen in South Africa's parliament, the widow of late Ambassador Nathi Mthethwa confronted President Cyril Ramaphosa and senior ANC officials directly, accusing them of having blood on their hands. The entire nation sat in stunned silence as chaos erupted in front of live cameras. Security forces struggled to contain it, and opposition parties demanded that she be allowed to have her say. The tension had been building inside the chamber for weeks. Ever since investigators uncovered new evidence in the ongoing probe into Dara's mysterious death in Paris, South Africa has been standing at the cusp of political crisis. Classified communications, secret bank transactions, and leaked surveillance footage reportedly detail a plot by several high-ranking government figures in covering up the ambassador's murder. But none of her closest confidants could have predicted the widow would take matters so publicly and with such raw power into her own hands. It was a routine parliamentary session, or at least it was supposed to be, until it suddenly became a national spectacle. President Ramaphosa was addressing members of parliament on issues of corruption and government accountability when the widow rose from the public gallery escorted by 2 aides. Her face pale, hands trembling as she clutched a brown folder reportedly containing sensitive documents connected to her late husband's case. Her voice broke the silence of the chamber as she shouted, trembling but fierce, "You all must be arrested. You know what you did to my husband? You silenced him because he refused to be part of your lies. But his blood cries for justice." Gasps echoed across the floor. Ministers froze in shock. For a few seconds, the entire chamber was suspended in disbelief. Then pandemonium erupted. Security officers rushed forward, but opposition members, particularly from the EFF and DA, intervened, shouting, "Leave her! Let her speak!" The speaker's attempts to restore order were drowned out by the clamor of lawmakers yelling over one another. Some ANC MPs attempted to shield the president while others pleaded for calm. But the widow refused to back down. Her eyes filled with tears, she raised her voice again. "He told me everything before he left for Paris," she cried. "He said, if anything happens to me, look to those who pretend to serve the people but serve only their pockets. I kept quiet long enough. No more." Her words cut through the noise like a blade. The chamber fell momentarily silent, the weight of her accusations hanging heavily in the air. Cameras zoomed in on President Ramaphosa's face, his expression tense, his usual composure slipping as he whispered urgently to his aides. Several MPs later described him as visibly shaken and uncharacteristically speechless. The speaker's gavel pounded repeatedly, but order was slipping away. The widow suddenly dropped the brown folder she had been holding, scattering its contents, dozens of papers, across the polished floor. Opposition MPs scrambled to collect the papers before security could intervene. Witnesses say the documents appeared to include email printouts, records of international bank transfers, and coded messages allegedly exchanged between senior political figures and foreign contacts. Some pages bore the logos of international financial institutions. Others carried embassy letterheads. The scene was pure chaos. Within minutes, the speaker ordered an emergency adjournment, and security escorted both the widow and the president out of the chamber. But by then, the damage was already done. Videos of the confrontation surfaced within minutes on social media. Hashtags like #JusticeForder, #RamaphosaMustAnswer, and #ParliamentErupt started trending across South Africa and soon around the world. Outside the parliamentary building in Cape Town, crowds started to gather, chanting, "No justice, no peace," and "Who killed her?" Protesters waved banners with the ambassador's picture. Candles flickered in the afternoon sun. The emotional outpour was instant and overwhelming. So many South Africans expressed grief mixed with rage, demanding full transparency and accusing the government of betraying its people by protecting the powerful. Political analysts warned that the confrontation might mark the most severe credibility crisis of Ramaphosa's presidency. The widow's accusation, delivered live before Parliament, has emboldened whistleblowers and reignited calls for an independent international inquiry into Dara's death. Analysts describe the moment as a breaking point for a nation already exhausted by corruption scandals. "What happened today isn't just a personal outburst," said political commentator Lethem Beale. "It's symbolic of a country that feels deceived. South Africans are tired of lies, tired of impunity, and tired of leaders who act as if they are above accountability." Ambassador Nathi's death in Paris was initially reported as a tragic accident, but from the beginning, inconsistencies surrounded the case. Witness accounts contradicted official police statements. Key surveillance footage vanished without explanation, and confidential embassy files were mysteriously erased days after his death. Rumors quickly spread that Dua had been preparing to expose a secret financial network linking certain South African officials to foreign business interests and illegal deals. Just days before his death, he had reportedly confided in colleagues that he feared for his life. "If something happens to me," he allegedly told them, "you'll know who's behind it." His words, once dismissed as paranoia, now echo hauntingly in light of his widow's confrontation. The brown folder she carried into Parliament might prove to be the turning point that investigators have been waiting for. According to sources close to the ongoing inquiry, the documents could implicate several high-level government insiders, including some close to the presidency itself. Although the authenticity of the papers has not yet been officially confirmed, early reports suggest that they contain damning evidence linking certain officials to offshore transactions and communications with shadowy foreign intermediaries. In the hours that followed the chaotic scene, Parliament issued a sparse statement labeling the incident regrettable but understandable given the emotional context. The Speaker stressed that the widow would not be held legally liable over what she did because of the extraordinary circumstances, but the general public does not believe them. Civil society organizations, anti-corruption activists, and even some ANC members have demanded that the president address the nation directly. They want clear answers about what his administration knows about Deyer's death and why the case has been kept under wraps for so long. Meanwhile, the widow's safety has become a big concern. Her lawyers have confirmed that she has received many threats since the confrontation, adding that she has been moved into protective custody at an undisclosed location. Her lawyers also say she will publish all the documents in her possession to the public if anything happens to her. This revelation has sent ripples through political circles amid speculation that it could trigger a wave of resignations or even arrests if the material proves authentic. "She's not just a grieving widow anymore," said one journalist. "She is the face of a national reckoning." Ordinary citizens are holding vigils and marches across the country in support of the call for justice for Ambassador Derivative. People have marched in solidarity from universities, churches, and civil rights groups, saying that this moment is not just one family's tragedy but a call of the people for truth. International media has picked up the story, casting it as a test of democratic institutions in South Africa and the will of its government to confront corruption at the highest level. According to sources, tension is palpable inside the union buildings. Senior ANC officials reportedly convened a series of emergency meetings out of fears that the scandal could unravel the party's fragile unity. The presidency has kept rather silent over the issue, although murmurs suggest internal divisions are deepening. Opposition leaders are seizing the moment, calling for the resignation of Ramaphosa and the immediate release of all evidence connected to Da's case. What began as one woman's cry for justice has now transformed into a defining moment in South Africa's modern history. Parliament, once viewed as a symbol of democratic order, has become a stage for grief, defiance, and truth. Whether this confrontation leads to real accountability or fades into yet another political cover-up remains uncertain. But one fact is undeniable: the truth about Ambassador Nthetwa's death will no longer remain buried. The widow's courage has ignited a fire that cannot easily be extinguished, forcing South Africa's leaders to face the questions they have long avoided. This is more than a political scandal, it is a moral reckoning. A nation stands at a crossroads, torn between fear and hope, corruption and justice. The confrontation in Parliament was not about one man's death, but about the soul of a country. Whether the government chooses to suppress the truth or confront it head-on will determine the course of South Africa's future. And as the words of the widow keep echoing within the halls of power, one thing is certain: the world is now watching, and history will not forget.